Oh yeah. Hey, welcome back everybody to the Project Grow Show. I'm Adrian Boysel. So grateful to be back here with you guys today. In this episode, we have a special guest, as always, and this special guest is going to share some knowledge with you that is also in our space, the advertising, the marketing world, helping business owners grow their business, expand their reach, and really do some things that are pretty incredible. But he's doing it at a whole nother level than I've ever even done it at. And so I wanted somebody that's been at this level to be able to share some of their knowledge with you. As you know, this is all about mentorship. We're really passionate about helping you guys break through, challenging your mindset, and helping you level up your business, your life, all those things that are associated with it too. So today we're gonna jump into it, but make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on this episode because you're gonna get some valuable knowledge and some information that I would love for you guys to just be able to be active and consistent with us. So drop a comment throughout the video, let us know who you are, what you do, and how this episode helped you. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into the interview. Today I'm with Mr. Lance Loveday with ClosedLoop. Hey Lance, how you doing?
I'm great, Adrian. How are you?
Good. Had a little brain fart there. Had to forget the name of your company.
No worries, man. I got to work on my branding apparently.
No, and that's actually one of the things that I'm really excited about is you have a really great brand, and something I was mentioning to you when we first talked. It's very inspiring to me. It's somebody, it's a brand that I've been looking at in town, going, man, this guy figured it out. He cracked the code. He's got it right. And looking at your website and all those things, but before we jump into all those amazing technical things and all that knowledge, I just want everybody to kind of understand the context of who you are, what you do, and how you got started.
Sure. Started off and graduated college, having gone in not knowing what I was going to do, and undeclared major even start at Davis, and I settled on managerial economics because I really enjoy business and enjoy the analytical side of things. And came out of college, initially thought I was going to go to law school and be a lawyer. And went to law school, starting off in San Diego, and realized I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And for the first time, I talked with practicing attorneys in the field. And it was really an eye-opener because you would expect people to cheerlead kind of for their industry somewhat. And all of these people were telling me, don't do it, man. It's horrible, right? And it really shook me. I thought, whoa, what am I getting myself into here? If even people in the space advised me against doing this. And they seem, at least the people that I talked to, they didn't seem happy. That was a pretty loud signal too. So I was like, okay, I need to think about this again because I'm taking on substantial student loans to go get a degree that, I'm not even sure is in a space I want to be in. And so after some soul searching, I ended up dropping out. So I'm a law school dropout, and tooled around just picking up what jobs I could for a little while. Was fortunate to have kind of a friend of a friend that got me a job in politics, of all things, working for a county supervisor down in San Diego. And so, I get this amazing growth and learning opportunity to work in politics, which it turns out is great training for a career in marketing. You're just representing a persona, basically, to an audience and trying to be persuasive on their behalf and advocate for their interests. And so you learn a lot about power dynamics, so much public speaking, how to write, how to communicate effectively, how to be persuasive. And in that case, it was really interesting because, you've got proximity to power, and I was able to actually influence some policies as well, which was a lot of fun and really engrossing for me too. But that's kind of a high burnout job, and it wasn't really where my passion was. So after about a year, I started to burn out a little bit on that. And fortunately, I get a phone call from a friend of mine in Silicon Valley at the time. And she says, hey, I'm at HP now, and I've moved up, and we've got this role I think you'd be great for. Why don't you come up here and interview for it? And I was like, great, let's do that. So I do that. I go up and I interview for the job, and I get it. And I go from working in the public sector in San Diego to the private sector in Silicon Valley, literally doubled my salary overnight.
Wow.
And it wasn't, it was a small salary to begin with, but I mean, that's a big jump, right? So I'm thinking, all right, I'm in high tech, I'm in Silicon Valley, and I'm working for HP now. I got this, job at this, and HP was cool at the time, which most people can't relate to now. But HP was seriously, seriously cool. It was on the cover of Fortune, most respected company, all this stuff. And I kind of come up through the ranks a little bit, and end up kind of getting back to the internet, which I had kind of discovered when I was in San Diego in the late 90s. And I get a job managing the HP small medium business website. And this is before design standards came down. This is before, coding standards and all these things came down and kind of took a lot of the fun out of it, honestly. Open field, greenfield opportunity. I got to learn on HP's dime. And that's where I discovered search marketing, SEO. Google was just launching at that time. It's where I discovered a really appreciation for usability and the role of design and crafting a good user experience. And it was just an invaluable experience for me. So from there, I jumped out, joined a startup for a while, which was very fashionable in Silicon Valley, in the dot-com boom. About a year after that, as we're getting ready to go public, dot-com crash hits, bang, and I'm laid off. And at that point, my wife and I were talking about moving up this direction to the Sacramento region. And we're like, well, let's do it. So we moved up here. We're fortunate to get a house. Our first house was up in Auburn.
Nice.
And we, I remember sitting at my kitchen table in Cupertino before we moved up, though, and I was brainstorming company name ideas. I was like, all right, I've been laid off. I got to generate an income to pay for this house I'm trying to buy. And what am I going to do? And so I thought, well, I'm going to go into consulting. I've seen, in my work, I've worked with a lot of outside consultants who I knew could really, make some decent income. And so I started doing that. So I started brainstorming company name ideas, came up with closed loop marketing. At the time, the only domain that was available was with the hyphens. It was closed-loop-marketing.com, if you can believe it. And I ran that for like 10 plus years. And I got so frustrated having to type that out or tell it to people, what's your Lance at closed-loop-marketing.com.
Oh man.
Gosh. Drove me nuts. So, I launched the company, later the same week from losing my job at that startup, sitting there in Cupertino, move up to Auburn, kind of hang out my shingle. Fortunate to get some initial clients early on, have the work go well for them. And I was kind of the guy at the point of the spear. I got to help discover new lead channels. I got to help do new things for them. So, I helped Quicken Loans a lot early on back in the day. Wow. And I helped pioneer their use of search engine marketing and SEO and A/B testing and multivariate testing and usability testing. And then I handed off to internal teams. They'd kind of hire behind me. But I got to do all that stuff initially for them. And it was a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had opportunities come my way that were going to require me to grow. And I made the decision to grow a company and build an agency, and been fortunate to have success doing that. So very long question to a simple answer, but now we're sitting at about 25 people in Closed Loop. I did buy the short domain now, ClosedLoop.com.
Nice.
Cost me about the price of a small car, but worth doing. We are running paid media campaigns, PPC campaigns, and programmatic display and video and app marketing campaigns, primarily for larger advertisers spending $50,000 a month and up, although our average advertiser is about $200,000 a month now.
Wow. Holy moly, $200,000 a month. That's a huge ad budget. That's incredible. Well, there's quite a few things you said in there that provoke a lot of different questions. I think, like you said, it's very important that you bought that domain name, especially once you kind of reach that certain success level of just adding that credibility and that authority. When you have those dashes in there and your domain name's 42 characters, it makes it really hard to, communicate and build that authority. I mean, Google's Google, Yahoo's Yahoo, Apple's Apple, right? And getting Closed Loop, I think it's such a great name. I really do. And props to you for making that commitment and that investment, because a lot of business owners are just not up for it. They don't want to spend $5,000, $10,000. I've done it myself. I bought instagraphics.com with this huge vision as I was flying across the country, or actually across the world, to Spain on a trip. And it came to my mind. I went and bought the domain name. It was expensive, very, very expensive. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to build. I know this is where everything's been leading. And this is really my mission, is to mentor people. And there was Instagraphics being born. But hearing about the Quicken Loans thing, and I want to touch on this briefly because you start a consulting business to come out and help other businesses with their stuff, and then you start to realize, like, man, I should be doing this for myself. How do you just right out of the gate get a company like Quicken Loans as a client? Was it a relationship that you had? Was it you prospecting and doing sales? Like, what was your kind of entry point to a company like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You got to remember back at that time, the internet was relatively new to everyone. Mm-hmm. So if you knew what you were doing, and I was fortunate enough to be in that situation, via my early work with HP, developing that website. If you knew what you were doing, you were kind of in the minority at that point, mm-hmm. right? And so you were kind of in demand. And so, I got access to that intro via, a relationship with a longtime friend and mentor of mine who, I worked with early on, and she opened a lot of doors for me and made that intro. And so our first meeting, we flew back to Livonia, Michigan, and I was actually pitching Dan Gilbert directly. And at the time, he was very involved with Quicken Loans, and Jay Farner and all these guys, many of whom are still around there, in the room. And I'm like having to pitch them on the value of search engine marketing as and convince them it's a viable channel for them, which sounds crazy today. I mean, they're probably one of the largest spenders on it today. But at the time, everything was so new. Mm-hmm. And these guys, had the vision, and all props to them. Their success is all on them. But they had the vision to get licensed in all 50 states and generate leads in all 50 states for mortgages. One of the first companies to do it. And and so the internet was just, the obvious way to source leads for them. And search marketing is the most, at the time, and I think arguably still, the most, highest ROI lead channel you're gonna get. Yeah. So it was via a relationship. Got it. And at some level, I was lucky, and I acknowledge that luck plays its role. But at another level, you create your own luck. That's right. Going out there and taking action every day, and not making excuses, and making lots of offers and having lots of conversations, and getting in, you use this word and it stuck out to me, proximity. Getting into the proximity of other like-minded, successful, driven, hungry, integral people that have high integrity like that. When you surround yourself with people like that, those doors start to just open. And I'm seeing that for myself right now with channel partners and relationships, and being in proximity to Mark Haney alone, right? Just the doors that's opened for clients and for business partners and all the different things that we're doing, for you being on this show. If it hadn't have been for me going and hanging out and surrounding myself with Mark Haney and Mark Haney's tribe, we wouldn't have been on this call today. That's why Brian's here. So the proximity deal is super important. I think a lot of people, especially now with quarantines and things going on, where they're just starting their businesses, they are not getting out there and networking and building relationships, but you can do that same thing online. So I think that's a really important lesson that you were able to share. And then the second lesson that I think was an underlying thing that you may not have realized about what you were saying about Quicken, and I want everybody here to notice and really take notice of this and take it to heart, is the innovation. Quicken Loans was very, very aggressive about the way they innovated their business, their company, and how they did everything. And so I think that's a really important lesson to take as well. My last video I did with Craig Hetrick was the same conversation, was all about like why most companies fail. It's because they stopped innovating, right? So Quicken Loans went out of there, they made that far-reaching choice to go out there and get licensed in every state. They made the decision to hire people like you and invest into search engine marketing and get ahead of the curve and to be constantly innovating. A few years ago, they launched Rocket Mortgage. They're just always innovating and doing new things and staying relevant in the marketplace and trying to continue to solve problems and make their customers' life easier and
easier. And so I think that's a really important lesson that everybody that's watching this today should be taking to heart as well, is just the importance of innovation in your business. And I'm sure from where you started to where you are today, I'm sure you've had to innovate a couple things. What's some of the things that you've done throughout your business and just innovating?
One more obvious example that comes to mind is, would be building our own technology. And we pull data from all the ad platforms into our own cloud-based data warehouse, and then we blend it with our clients' back-end data so that we can do what we think of as kind of full funnel optimization.
Wow.
It's honestly insane. It's unheard of for an agency of our size to have built a sophisticated tool like that. But we did it a few years ago because we were frustrated that it didn't exist yet, right? And, I couldn't go buy it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, but
nice.
We needed it in order to deliver on our vision for how we thought these campaigns should be managed properly. So, was fortunate to have the resources to be able to do it, and to have the talent to have found an amazing CTO who could come in and actually quarterback this build and make it happen. And, I realized after the fact that a lot of agencies had tried to do it and failed. And so there'd been a lot of money burned trying to do this. And that's kind of the benefit of ignorance, I guess, at some level. You try things that seem impossible because you don't know they're impossible.
That's right.
And darn if we didn't hit it out of the park the first time.
Wow.
And we built this tool that has become foundational to our business now, and it is an absolute differentiator for us, and it still gets people's eyes, or ears perked up when they hear about it. And when I can show them what we can do with that software now, it's the kind of thing that a lot of people talk about and want to be able to do conceptually, but they don't have an answer for it. And we show them, oh yeah, that's just part of our service. It's what we do. People, it just knocks people's socks off. So having the courage to build our own technology tool when, we're not a technology company, we're not a software company, but we saw this thing that we needed in order to really be able to do things the way we think they should be done. Yeah. And we invested in it, and it was not cheap, man.
Wow. No, I know software development is no joke.
For a company like us to have this sophisticated software tool, but we just, like you say, we've stuck to our convictions, and it's worked out well so far.
You got enough of a track record to be able to make those kinds of investments. And I'm sure the efficiency and just being able to see overall, helicopter view, higher elevation of everything that's going on for each of your clients is huge. The dollars are in the data, man. The more data you can get, and the better decisions you can make. And that's, I think, my guess is why you're able to scale and run these $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 campaigns, because you're dealing with so much data when you're on that level. Without a tool like that, you're kind of just shooting and praying, right? You're just throwing something at the wall and hoping that it sticks.
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. It makes us way more efficient, way more confident in our ability to optimize these campaigns and manage those kinds of budgets. Importantly too, though, it gives our clients confidence that we can do it.
Yeah.
When we can surface these things for them and show them ways of measuring performance that they've not even thought of before, they've never seen before. And you build on that and you get confidence in it, and that confidence projects through to the clients. And now that client that is spending $1 million, sometimes $2 million a month, that would normally be spending it with a big holding company agency, right?
Yeah,
is very confident spending it with us because we're offering a similar, if not higher, level of sophistication for them.
Got it. I think that's powerful. And what my mind is going to is, I think you said you're pulling everything in from all the different ad platforms, and touching on that for a second, because I think a lot of people are super overwhelmed, especially nowadays, with the platforms themselves, because there's so many choices, right? Google's been around, since the early 2000s in terms of the ad platform. I remember doing Google Engage program. I don't know if you remember the Google Engage program before they had the Google Partners. I remember going to Chicago, sitting in there, and the guy that literally wrote the book on Google Ads, breaking everything down step by step. And I had the notebook. I still have the notebook from 2010. And I remember writing it all down on my notebook and that light bulb switching off and going, oh my gosh, I already know SEO. I already understand graphics and branding. I already can do web design because I have an amazing web designer that's working for me. This was the final piece of the puzzle that I needed. I need to be able to have an advertising platform. And this is so simple. This is going to be huge. And I've just watched over the years, the Google Ads platform just continue to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I think they're definitely the biggest player. But from your perspective, from an expert's perspective, what are some of the other platforms that maybe people aren't paying attention to that they should be looking at and taking into consideration for their business?
Oh, I don't know that it's going to surprise anyone. Facebook has come up and is easily the number two behind Google. Yeah. The surprising thing for me, though, has been how universally relevant Facebook is for advertisers. So even for B2B audiences, we're seeing amazing success advertising on Facebook because at the end of the day, that B2B buyer, whether they're a web developer, software developer, whatever niche technical audience even, they're still human beings, and in many cases they're spending time on Facebook, and they are they are addressable, to you at that point. And if you can adapt your creative and your offer such that it resonates with that person, when they're in that context of scrolling through their feed on Facebook, you can absolutely break through, and it can be much more powerful and engaging even than someone clicking on a search ad in response to a search query at work.
I agree.
And I think there's definitely an argument to be made for there being a multiplier effect and having presence across all these different channels. And in fact, we've done some pretty sophisticated modeling on that shows that recently.
Wow.
So Facebook definitely, and even if you're questionable on it, and in your personal experience isn't great with Facebook, I've had to combat that somewhat. People go, really, what? Isn't this just all a bunch of weird conspiracy theories and things, and people selling their dogs and kids, and yes, there's a lot of that, but people use it in all different kinds of ways, and you got to go where the audience is, and they got they've got targeting methods. Their machine learning is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
If you optimize to the right metric, they'll find the audience for you.
Yeah. Again, the details and the data that they provide and that you can target is just incredible.
Yeah. And we even use some third-party targeting there as well.
Oh, really? That's neat.
That's definitely getting fun.
That's fun. Wow.
LinkedIn is kind of an obvious one for B2B because you can do true account level targeting and account-based marketing.
Yeah.
Campaigns. And then, we've actually seen surprising success with Twitter in some cases too, because of the interesting communities that you can target. So you can target people based off of who they follow, right? So you can say, I want to target the followers of this personality, right?
Yep.
It's fun, and you have to think differently about it. But it actually, if there are these kind of micro communities that are right in your target market, and they're already having conversations with each other on Twitter, you can absolutely target just those, and that's really fun. As well. The volume is not as big as you're going to see on Google and Facebook, but the value of the audience can be large enough sometimes that it's worth doing.
That's right. Yeah. And Russell Brunson actually talks about that quite a bit is find somewhere where a conversation is taking place and become part of that conversation. Insert yourself into that conversation and become relevant and add value into that conversation. And instead of trying to force yourself or be pushy or just doing loud stuff that it doesn't fit the context. A lot of people do that. And so he talks about just finding an existing conversation and putting yourself right there in the middle with something valuable that's going to help the marketplace. It's all about being a servant, right? I mean, that's a big part of who I am and who Russell is. And a lot of the people that are having a ton of success, they're going out there and serving people. They're not just trying to serve themselves first, which is really important. And I think the tribe thing that you're talking about is finding those communities and those cores is really important. I know I'm doing that for my business, contractors, lawyers, environmental companies, R&G coalitions, things like that. Those are kind of my wheelhouse and my niches and my tribes that I'm building. So it makes it easier for me to target those people. Do they drive a Tesla? Are they driving a Prius? And all those targeting campaigns. That's really neat. And I think that Twitter is something that is probably underutilized for sure. I've never advertised on Twitter. My main things have been Google and Facebook. I've done a little bit of LinkedIn ads, but not very much at all. And so I think that's some pretty good advice. And now TikTok even has an ad platform that they rolled out. And then I was going to ask you, what about the Amazon advertising? And I noticed I typed in the other day, advertising.com, and guess what it took me to? Verizon. Verizon Wireless.
Oh, okay.
And they claim they have this massive network where they can reach some ridiculous amount of people. And I was like, So I kind of put an inquiry in there, but I'm starting to kind of look at these other platforms to try to find some of the areas that my competitors aren't looking at, going, hey, what about Amazon advertising? Think how many people shop on Amazon. I mean, I think it's like every product that's purchased in the world a day, or even in the United States, it's like they're like 55% of all the purchases, products that are purchased. And I'm like, that's incredible.
It is kind of scary. Yeah, we certainly have seen, a big uptake in Amazon ads, and in particular, obviously for e-commerce and retailers.
Yeah.
I think the headlines got a little overblown on that. They're not going to take over the world. It's a large opportunity. It's somewhere you should be if you've got, a product that's appropriate for it.
Got it.
And there are ways, as with all these platforms, to play that game smarter and make sure you're not the dumb money in the marketplace.
Yeah.
It's not going to take over the world either.
Got it. Yeah, and I think Google's already kind of got their foothold, and so does Facebook now. And they're the two, like you said, they're the two strong players, and that's why I went after those, because it's just easy. The platforms make sense to me. And when you have the Facebook side and you got the social aspect and funneling people from an ad to a Facebook group, and then creating value in a group and a free group, and then pushing them to a mastermind or pushing them to a course, or there's just some really good strategies that I've been able to utilize myself, and I'm literally doing now. I mean, with graphic designers, I'm trying to build a group of 5,000, 10,000 graphic designers that are all focused on growth and personal development and business development, and then funnel them to my course, a high ticket, $7,000 to $10,000 course. That's something else that I'm doing as well. Because the more value I can bring, the more breakthrough that they get, they're going to get hungrier and they're going to want that change and transformation. So Facebook's a powerful platform, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think a lot of people are really comfortable with Facebook because of just all the stuff that's been going on, and the data and Cambridge Analytica, all that crazy stuff. So I think it's time for people to really harness that. And I've even had a couple clients that are contractors say, I tried that and it didn't work. I just got a bunch of garbage leads. Everything that comes from Facebook is garbage. And what I look at is it's really a quantity over quality with Facebook. If you're a contractor, you're going to have to sift through the tire kickers, because the intent really is not as high as it is on a Google search. If someone's like, best roofing contractor near me, or roofing repair, emergency roofing repair company, they're looking for something now. Whereas Facebook, you're going to have to build a relationship with that person, creating retargeting campaigns, creating more value. There's only a small number of those people that are going to be ready to take an immediate action. So I think a lot of people don't have those systems on the back end. And so that's where I'm coming in now, is offering those email nurturing and text message automations and Facebook bots, the chat bots and all those other things that we can incorporate to just continue to add value and build that relationship with that audience.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I will say, in addition to that, though, I have been surprised at how many people really are addressable and are willing to respond even right off the bat. Where we don't have to do as much of a nurture campaign.
Yeah.
Because we, in many cases, will hold Facebook to the same ROI standards as paid search, and we're successful in doing that. So it can be.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. And it takes some refining and fine tuning, and obviously every niche and every vertical is a little bit different, but that actually is what brings me to that specific topic of the niche and the vertical. Brings me to what I wanted to ask you is just the ad spend. I mean, the big elephant in the room, if you will, that number is so staggering, from $50,000 to $200,000 or more in monthly advertising spend. What made you decide to go from, being somebody like me that's like, hey, you got to spend at least $1,000 to $5,000, to work with us, to, hey, you got to spend $50,000 a month to $200,000. Like, where was that transition? Were you just kind of, is because of Quicken, or I want to know a little bit more about that?
It's been an evolution for sure. It started off, it started off, and I was kind of in the same boat, and saying, all right, I was trying to approach it from a business perspective and say, how much do I need to make, in order to make this engagement pan out and pencil out for me. Yeah. I realized early on, God, that's got to be at least $500 to $1,000. So I needed to work with people who are willing to spend $5 to $10,000 a month. And there's been so much secular growth in digital ad spend over time that the people who qualify, have been increasing their spends over time. So we've kind of tracked that, and we've benefited from that. But as we've evolved our methodology too, and we've realized, you need to have senior people on these more sophisticated campaigns, and they need to have the time to dedicate to it. And so as we kind of, did the math and reverse engineered back out, we kept realizing that, we need to continue to raise our minimums in order to provide the service level that we believe our clients need and deserve at these spend levels. And so I always approach it from the perspective of what's the minimum, what's our break-even number, on average per account, and let's make that our minimum. And then aim for growth, from there. And it's
nice.
On us to provide the ROI for those clients so they can rationalize increasing budgets, and we can grow them, right?
Yep.
So everybody wins together. So, for a while there, it seemed like our minimum was $3,000 in terms of our management fee for many, many years. And I was really nervous about increasing that, but I bit the bullet, and for like a month I increased it to like $4,000, and nobody batted an eye. And part of it had to do with the confidence of being able to tell people that.
Yeah.
And starting off early on, I was almost apologetic talking about pricing, and I was very nervous about it, and didn't have confidence in projecting it that, because I knew it was a lot of money, and I was uncomfortable talking about money. And I didn't project confidence in the value of my own services by doing that. And I realized that, after many years of doing it incorrectly. And I think, after that transition, it was, for us, it was moving from over 3,000 a month up. That's when I got confidence in it. And so I immediately went to 5,000 a month, and I realized people didn't bat an eye at it. I went, oh, damn it, I've been doing this wrong the whole time, right? I've been underselling myself and undervaluing my services. And there's a much bigger market opportunity out there. And in our space, I'd rather have fewer, larger clients in general, right? So I've just made that part of our business model is to continually be increasing our minimums over time, and continually hunting bigger fish, I guess, accordingly. And once I kind of learned to be able to present that with confidence and be able to rationalize it for people, it's not just me being greedy. Yeah. This is actually, how things pencil out, and where we need to be to make our minimums. The people you want to work with, they don't care, because they're spending at a level where they're not going to be upside down on agency fees as a percentage of media spend anyhow, right? Someone who's spending $100,000 a month doesn't care if our minimum is now $8,000.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's irrelevant to them. And they're almost reassured by it, because they know that I'm not, trying to land them and work with them at the same time that my current client roster is a bunch of mom and pops, right?
Yeah.
It signals to them that, no, I'm working with other people who are like you, who are operating at scale and some level of sophistication. And it puts us on a more level playing field out of the gate, right? I'm telling them, I'm asking
That's
them,
right. Yep.
Really up front, are you big enough to work with us?
Come meet us at our level, not the other way around.
Right. Totally different discussion, right? That's more a peer level discussion. And that's what I think it took me a long time to learn is that, when I was selling, I was always kind of coming at it from I was a supplicant, I was below
Yeah.
that person, and they were
Yep.
doing me a favor by hiring me. And I've
Wow.
really tried to normalize
Holy
that over
moly.
time to the level where, hey, I'm a peer of yours. I have my own expertise. I have my own business to run here. I'm here to explore whether there's a fit here or not. And if there's not, I'm going to tell you so. I'm not going to put the hard sell on everybody.
Yeah.
We're selective about who we work with. And yes, you've got to meet the dollar spend requirements, but I'm also testing for more qualitative elements here as well. And that I don't want someone who's going to churn quickly and be a bad fit for us. I don't want a client who's going to treat my staff poorly,
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
value
That's
our
huge.
work and so on. So I'm testing more for these cultural attributes as well to ensure that we've got alignment that's going to lead to true long-term success. And I'm looking for a growth mentality. Are people looking to grow, and are they willing to invest in growth, or are they, clamping on to every budget dollar they've got and, worried about spending more money, to make money? And that's not a good environment for us.
That's such good advice, and it's such a good mindset. I mean, I catch myself even getting into that same lack mentality at times. I didn't grow up from a wealthy family and didn't have, money was looked at as a bad thing. And so it's taken me a long time. And I feel like that's what's held my career back is the financial side, the money side of my business. And now that I'm starting to embrace that, I'm starting to see the effects, the positive effects that are happening from it. And so I think that knowledge that you just shared right there is going to be so valuable for everybody here, is making sure that you have a high level. If you're attracting a customer, getting a conversation, and getting the opportunity to pitch them, you are the expert. And if you have a great product or service that you're offering that you will deliver at a great standard and a high quality, then they need to come and meet you where you're at. If they're not willing to, then like you said, they're not a great fit for you. And I mean, I had a conversation this morning with a guy that's an attorney. That's one of my niches. And I threw him out. I mean, this is ridiculous for me to even say on this, but I want the transparency. That's what I'm all about. Is I threw out $3,500 a month, and I even threw in some ad spend on that. And when I said it, as soon as I opened my mouth, I'm like, oh my God, this is too low. He's an attorney. I want to be able to get him results. And if I'm going to get him results, he really needs to spend more than that. But he's doing a course, an online course. And he's already threw a lot of money at this. And he was referred to me from a friend. So I'm just trying to take care of him. And I'm like basically in a sense dropping my pants to help the guy. And I don't need to do that. I need to be able to, this is where I'm at. If you can't be there, then I totally understand. When you're ready and when you are at that point, give me a call, because I will take care of you. I will over deliver, and make sure that I do everything I say I'm going to do. And that is an important mindset for people. So that's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. That's one of the most valuable lessons I've learned over time is just the power of no.
The power of no.
If you can develop enough conviction and confidence in yourself to be able to use that. People are so unaccustomed to hearing it and having it used on them that they, at least I find, the people I want to work with respect it.
That's right.
When I'm willing to walk away, all of a sudden things get serious.
It changes the context of the conversation, and you don't need their business. Do you want their business? Absolutely. But you don't need their business. So I'm curious, when you deal with a client that's, I'm sure you went 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and up from there to the $50,000 mark. Was there anything kind of significant that happened for you in terms of pushback when you went to the $10,000 mark? Where was kind of the first point where you're like starting to realize?
Honestly, that was it was the strangest thing. I never regretted increasing my minimums.
Uh-huh.
I was always happy I did it and wished I had done it sooner. Because
Wow.
what it ended up doing was filtering out a lot of the less serious people. And to some extent, you can't do that in every industry, right? This has been an industry that has experienced massive growth, right? And so we've been able to ride that at some level. But I don't recall getting pushback on it. In most cases, people just accepted it and moved on. In some cases, people would, and still do, kind of ask for exceptions and go, gosh, we really would love to work with you guys, but, we're not looking to start at that budget level. Could you lower your minimum, and bet on our growth with us a little bit, right? And I'll make selective exceptions for that. If I really think that there's strategic long-term upside there, I'll do that. But again, that's a different dynamic, right? What's different about it? Instead of me pitching them on why they should work with us, they're coming to me now, asking me to make an exception for them. Totally changes the dynamic of that conversation.
Totally. Yeah, you're in the authoritative position and you're leading that conversation, which is really, really cool. So, I mean, for somebody that's, doing ads like us that wants to start getting clients on a higher level and start making some bigger management fees and ad spends, is there a specific niche or industry or, vertical that they could start in or should start in that you recommend that, that has some of those higher budgets and people that want to spend some more money? Or is it just kind of, again, one of those, just the relationship thing?
Yeah, I really have always struggled with that. And, I'll be transparent with you. Every client wants to hear that you have expertise in their vertical, right?
Yep.
And, because we have a wide breadth of clients, we're fortunate to be able to do that in most cases. We can point to case studies and other existing clients that, reassure them that, yeah, we've got experience in their space. But my actual belief is that it doesn't matter. And it kind of is frustrating and honestly a little bit annoying to me. The nature of what we do, we're managing a complex system and pulling 1,000 different levers behind the scenes and so on, and trying to get everything synchronized to make these campaigns really sing. I liken it to conducting a symphony, right?
Yeah.
And those levers are what they are, right? The seats in the orchestra are what they are. And so, if you're asking me to play Beethoven, or if you're asking me to play Mozart, I don't care. The seats in the orchestra are still the same.
Yeah.
And the ways that we're going to work together toward mutual success are largely the same. And so is there a need for us to understand the business? Of course, there is. But having done this for 20 years, we've worked in a wide variety of industries. We've been able to get up to speed pretty darn quickly. That's the nature of keyword research, the nature of business research.
Exactly.
And it's always worked for us, even in really niche technical stuff. In some cases, we've been able to really outperform, even though we don't have the technical expertise to talk the talk and sometimes. So
yeah.
I don't think it matters as much. I think if you've got value alignment, and you've got a track record of success, we've always managed to do new things and make it look easy. And I just continue to believe that the quality of the people you bring to the table has a lot more to do with your success than whether or not they have, can check that box and being experienced in your space. I feel like it's, I don't know. I feel like it's theater. It gives a false sense of security, right?
Well, in terms of that quality of people, I think that's a very important piece. And I'm sure the bigger clients you are, the bigger the problems and headaches you have. But I'm guessing that when you started dealing with those companies that were serious about spending and serious about growth, they were able to trust you more. They know, if you're handling $50,000 a month in ad spend, you're not an amateur at this. This is your wheelhouse. You are the expert. So they're going to do less questioning of you and they're going to be less jumpy, if you will, when you're dealing with those companies, I'm sure, right?
Somewhat. We still, and that's why I tested for this early on, but, some people really want to micromanage this, right? And at some level, again, you've got to have the hard conversation and be willing to push back and say, look, you hired us for a reason.
Yeah.
You hired us for our expertise. So, if you're now going to tie our hands and babysit us and make us ask for permission, anytime we want to make, even minor changes to the accounts, that's not to your benefit, and it's not to our benefit, and it's honestly not enjoyable to us. And so this isn't going to be a good fit. So you need to give us the freedom to do our best work, hold us accountable for the results that matter to you, right?
That's it.
That matter to you aren't this setting on this keyword in this campaign in this geography, right? That's our job.
Yeah.
What matters to you is qualified lead growth.
Yep.
We'll commit to that.
Okay.
But let us pull the levers behind the scenes to contribute to that objective and give us some time and some space to get there.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that's super smart. That's a really good way to go about it. A lot of people let the customers just constantly bombard them and push on them, and I've had it happen myself with those type A, personalities. Those can be difficult to deal with, and especially if you're a people pleaser and you just want to help people and you want to keep them happy. It's easy to fall into that trap, and that's definitely a trap because that just continues to get worse and worse as time goes on. So I think that's a really important lesson as well. And I think for the size of a company that you are in terms of, in Sacramento here, you're like in the top 3 of advertising agencies, and I don't know in terms of the country, but you're one of the leading advertising agencies as far as I'm concerned around. And I'm just curious, your team, 25 people, like I have a much, much smaller business than you do. And I think I'm a little people heavy at the moment. That's just because I made some investments and I'm trying to reach that next level. But having 25 people, that seems really lean to me for the type of operation that you have. Did you do that intentionally?
Yeah, as an agency, you're always balancing, revenue and cost, right? Or as a business owner, you're balancing that. In the agency space, in the service business space, the biggest component of cost is people, right? It's salaries. Yep. So that's just a fact of life. You always got to find that right balance. For us, we're somewhat fortunate in that, we have achieved a certain scale where we've got some, what you think of as overhead resources that we need to keep the business running. We need to have a finance function, an HR function, an accounts receivable function to make sure we're getting paid, right? So we've got some dedicated resources at the overhead level. And then, what flexes is really the service delivery team, and that flexes in response to new client acquisition and growth. And we've been able to put some triggers in place to know that, okay, based off the pipeline, based off current workload, hey, we're going to need to hire and we got to get out ahead of it. And we figured out kind of that rhythm too for, and so we can kind of be right sized from an overall staffing and service delivery capacity perspective. And that feels good because for so many years, it was win the work and then we'll figure out how to
solve the problem.
Right. Yeah. But
that's
get the business and then we'll worry about tomorrow's problem tomorrow. And now I feel like we definitely are able to be somewhat more proactive about that. And once you get to a certain scale too, you can kind of load balance between people, between teams somewhat. And then, another fun problem gets introduced is, you get a big enough staff, then, you've got vacation schedules to work around. You've got people going out on maternity leave and other forms of leave and so on. And so, there's always someone out that you need coverage for as well. And so, you need to think more from a pooled resource perspective as opposed to, gosh, I need to hire a person to manage that account, right? It's a little more fluid than that now.
Totally. Wow, man, you've shared so much knowledge and information. My head is spinning at the moment with just the amount of stuff that I'm going to be able to put into use for myself. And I'm sure so many people here that are watching have gotten just amazing knowledge and wisdom from you in this. The only question that I really have, I think, that's left at this point is when it comes to dealing with these smaller clients, how you deal with a smaller client, how you deal with a bigger client, I'm sure in many ways is very similar. But when somebody does come to you and they're like, hey, hey, Lance, I got $20,000 I want to dump into my advertising budget, and they're not at that level. Obviously, there's a letdown, you got to do in that process. I'm like, hey, we work with 50,000 and up. You're not there yet. But how do you refer those people? Do you have channel partners? Like, how do you go about that process?
Yeah, I always try to give people a referral to a quality resource that I feel like is a good fit for them. And it's just a belief in trying to be of service, as you said, and be helpful to people in the hopes that it comes back to us in some form later on, and it contributes to our reputation. And again, I think people respect it, and hopefully they appreciate it. And to the extent that, I can kind of filter down for them and only recommend qualified resources that are going to treat them well. If they then have a good experience, that reflects well on me. And then maybe they do end up hiring us later once they do achieve a certain level of growth. I definitely, I don't end the conversation as soon as someone's unqualified. I do what I can to be helpful to people, while still sticking to our guns in terms of, what our minimums are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. And I'm finding that these channel partnerships that I have now are seriously like jet fuel for what I'm trying to do. And I never put that much time and energy. I was just going out and getting clients and prospecting and sending videos and doing that. And now that I'm building these strategic relationships and channel partners, it's taking so much work off my plate and building so much momentum. And I'm able to co-work. I mean, the attorney that I met with this morning came from a friend of mine here that's in town that does video. And so just being able to bounce off and do business with each other and support each other that way, I think is really, really neat. So I look forward to hopefully being able to send those bigger guys to you, because I don't have the bandwidth to manage campaigns at that level, and hopefully vice versa. If you guys get somebody small and it's just not worth your guys' time, you can send some of those our way. And I think the core values of who you are, and I got the pleasure of getting to know you a little bit before we did this, and I think that is probably a big part of your company and your business and why you've had the success that you have. And so I'd love to just close it out with that. Is tell me what your core values are and how you've kind of incorporated those into your business.
Sure. I'm not going to run through the whole list, but, if I could distill it down to one thing, I believe that business can be a force for good, and that, my business, no matter how small, can make an impact and be a force for good. And I want to do that. So I want to use business. Certainly, yes, you've got to make money. You got to keep the lights on. That's table stakes, though. If that's all you're doing, I think that's not the level of meaning I want from life. I think there's an opportunity to do more with it. And so I want to work with great people as employees. I want to work with great clients, and if we can kind of make magic together and help our clients grow, provide meaningful work for our people, generate some profits, redirect and give some of those profits back to the community and make an impact on the world, put a dent in the world. If we're the only ones that do that, then we're not going to make much of a difference. But if, hundreds of thousands and millions of other companies, small and large, come together and think that same way,
that's right.
You're damn right we can make a difference. So that's what I believe in.
Man, that's powerful. Heck yeah, I love that a lot. And that's what I'm out there to do, is serve as, and I know I want to help the small contractors. I come from a family of contractors, and I really see them struggling for their marketing and their digital marketing and their branding and all that. So that's why I came in and went after that niche, and I have an affinity for them. And then I went into the legal niche because there's just a big hole in that niche. And so my core values are very much in line with yours. And I think being a force for good is important. And so if you're a business owner and you're just out there just trying to chase the dollar, that's going to be short-lived. And if you want to build something sustainable, you really need to change your heart, soften your heart, and get right with your maker, and make sure that you're doing something for the benefit of others, because that's truly what is going to make change in the world, and that's what we need more of. The more of that we can get, the better. So thank you so much, Lance. If anybody wants to reach out to you and utilize your services, how can they get in contact with you?
Just to hit the website. It's shorter now. ClosedLoop.com.
It's not closed dash. Do you still own the closed-loop marketing?
I do.
I love it. You heard him right there. So ClosedLoop.com. Check his website out. He's got his face on there. He is a big part of his brand, which I really admire as well. I've been doing a better job of that myself, and I just want to give you props to all of your success, everything that you've done here locally. It's been noticed, and it's inspiring, and I'm just very grateful that you were able to share your knowledge, and just thank you so much.
Oh, Adrian, very gracious, and likewise to you, man. Congratulations on your success, and hey, let's see what we can do to put Sacramento on the map, huh?
There we go. All right, guys, you heard it from him. Let's put Sacramento on the map. If you guys can help in any way of just liking, commenting, subscribing to this. If you need help with your advertising, either myself or Lance can help you, and we'll make sure that you're more than taken care of. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until our next episode, we'll see you soon. And as always, keep looking up.